So I'm just moving for next 5-10 minutes that how do we go ahead from hypothesis to presentation. I'm sorry this presentation was made 3 days ago, was delivered at Rajkot, hence even those names are written. Well, scientific communications may be a presentation, oral poster or a publications, and they are important for growth of science and improve the quality of clinical practice. Well, how does this improve the quality of clinical practice? Well, when you do a case, you ask a question to yourself after coming out of operation theatre or after applying a plaster, that could I have done better? And when you ask this question to yourself, you try to find out what is best, what is not best. And that is what brings the question of the concept of outcome evaluation. So you evaluate your performance of the case by the laid down criteria, and that is outcome evaluation. And now if this is done based on some criteria which are well defined in the literature, then it becomes scientific evaluation. So that evaluation which you have done is a scientific. And if this all what it does is that it makes your clinical preferences and practice predictive, because you want to improve onto your last performance and you want to reduce the complication which you encounter in treating your cases. And that's how overall this improves the quality of clinical practice. Well, research is nothing but something, it's something which has already been searched. It is something which has been to reveal neither thought of in the domain of conjecture or looked at with suspicion. And the silver lining is that you are trying to learn from your own mistakes and somebody else's experience. You want to discern signal from noises, wave from turbulence, and trends from chaos. Well, there are various levels of research, be it maybe a postgraduate thesis, or maybe a PhD studies, or be it maybe done at the level of institution, which all of us do, or done as a large multi-center studies. But then the basic of medical research are the same for all research. So the basic of all medical research are the same, whether it is thesis or whether it is PhD dissertation or whether it is institutional research or a multinational or multi-level, multi-center studies. So, but the first important question is that why are we so harping on publication? Why are we so harping on research? Well, for the growth of science, one should have a problem, and once you have a problem, we identify the cause. If we identify the cause, then devise strategy to solve the problem. And if the strategies which you have evolved, if you do a scientific appraisal of the outcome, whether that strategy is working or not, so the longitudinal collection of such appraisal gives us a evidence, and that becomes a definitive evidence, and that's what is research. And you want that this research, this should be retrieved beyond our life, beyond human life, and that's how the publication is important. Well, is research important? Yes. Medicine has evolved based on scientifically evolved innovation. It's an art transformed from an art based on belief in supernatural force to art based on science. This art is learned by observation of talented physicians and by the practice. Well, if you recall the history, 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, medicine evolved in 3 different parts of the world: Europe, modern medicine, Chinese medicine, and Ayurveda. Well, Ayurveda evolved from ongoing body of practical medical experience, which is passed down orally through numerous generations, until eventually it was written down as Sushruta Samhita or Charak Samhita. Well, it was based upon a combination of empirical treatment, erroneous religious and philosophical assumptions, but then it was far ahead of Western medicine in surgery. While modern medicine has evolved from a long pre-scientific stage of development, but they continue to apply proper scientific principle. They discarded all those ideas which were superstitious. They had no genuine medical foundation. They discarded all old ideas, and they kept the thing that worked. And that is why something Ayurveda never did. And that's the reason that Ayurveda remains in its original pre-scientific stage, while Western scientific medicine has advanced. And the end product is that today medicine means Western medicine, rest are alternative medicine. Well, medical science has to evolve, because medicine is a biological science and biology is not stationary. We have moved from one cell to the current human population. Well, practice of medicine are guided by the West. Whatever advocated, followed in principle and practiced successfully. Reason, there was not much disease similarity in disease profile 60 years ago, but now there is a huge disparity. Well, we do not get only simple fresh fractures, we get neglected fractures, we get all complicated post-surgically or even without surgically, so all kind of a clinical cases in plenty. And those kind of cases which we get, they are not in small number, they are in big number, they are all simple as well as complicated. We do not get simple one hip to be done which is simple osteoarthrotic, but we get hip to be replaced which has a severe protusio. And not only protusio, it has a concomitant simultaneous involvement of both knee joint, and one is deformed 90 degree and other deformed 60 degree. So you have to find out solution to these all complicated combinations of problem. We do not get simple hips to be replaced, we have all these kind of complication pending for us. So research and solution to our clinical problem is to be provided by us, and that is why research for us is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And this research which we have to do to find out solution to our problem has to be need based, and this is the best example. Satch foot was available 40, 60, 70 years ago, was not being utilized by Indian, liked by Indian subcontinent people. But the moment Jaipur foot came, all amputee they started wearing, and they are walking now on both two limbs. So this what is the impact of a need based evolution or research. Why publication is important? Because good clinical practice, what it does, that it improves your clinical practice. Others can provide better solution. I have done something new, but I want everybody in the country or everyone in the world should be benefited by that work. So that's what publication does. And number two, it is retrievable beyond your human life. So that becomes foundation for future research. Well, whatever Robert Jones has done or anybody has done, we are improving upon them, and that's how medicine is evolving. So we have to conduct this study and we have to publish it. Now we read a lot about hierarchy of evidence. That is what is the different kind of randomized studies to prospective cohort study to case control studies, respective case series and opinion. And that's what is level 1 to level 5 is given. Level 5 is the lowest in the importance. But if you look at the level 1, randomization. Well, in randomization, you have a subset of patient, identical clinical problem, divide into two groups. One is treated by one particular method, other is treated by one other particular method, and outcome is compared, and that is what is the best way to define what is best for one particular clinical situation. But the bottom line is that, and it is done forward in time. So but the bottom line is the person who is executing the treatment should be able to identify, should have the same identical patient, and should be well competent to perform both procedures, should be competent to perform both the procedure. Well, if I am competent to perform one procedure and I am not competent to perform second procedure and I am doing an RCT, then that RCT is going to do more harm than good. So RCT is a very sensitive study, and it should be done in all purity. Could we randomize everybody? Certainly not, because they are not always practical or feasible. It is sometimes not ethical to randomize every patient. We will never be able to recruit many patients because of the nature of study, and differential expertise, that both procedures should have the equal amount of expertise, is a big issue. And that's how, because on that depends the prognosis, and it is a costlier investigation. Well, in hierarchy of evidence, second comes a prospective cohort study. Here again you have a subset of patients which are exposed to one treatment or to other treatment, and outcome is compared, and this is again a forward in time. Case control study goes reverse. You find out one patient, you find out one complication in that patient, you go into the history of that particular patient and find out why this complication has occurred. Now you compare this patient from that patient which has not have that complication, and then look here, what is the difference in these two treatment arm of these two patients, and that has one patient has produced complication while other patient has not been produced complication, and that goes backward in time. So that's the case control study. Now retrospective case series are most commonly done and most commonly sent for publication. Here you have a research question, you retrospectively reviewed all cases operated and then analyzed them. But the limitation is that you do 100 cases, retrospectively analyze 40 cases because you get got 40 patients only and 60 patients only, and 40 those who have not come may be having a worse result than those 60 patients because they have gone to somebody else for the treatment. So this is the limitation of retrospective case series. Hence it's very important that how many patients have been done, how many patient has been evaluated. That depends the strength of a retrospective case studies. Another limitation is that this you take it from record. So it's not, you're not sure what has been recorded 5 years ago, whether that information which you are trying to generate today has been recorded at all or not. So that is another limitation. But then 80 to 90% study reported are retrospective case series. So hierarchy of evidence from level 1 to level 5, the bottom line is that what we are trying to do is to make less biased study to more biased study. So randomized, if ideally done, is the least biased, and that is why it has the best evidence, and opinions are the most biased. But the bottom line is that if you have a clear research question, you have clearly defined what is evaluated, you have clearly defined how evaluated, what is the basis to say good or bad, or what was observed, and this observation which you have made is significant or not by statistical calculation, and conclusion is this answer to your research question, then if you have in any work these ingredient, then it is publishable. What is the best paper to be accepted? Well, well methodically performed study and well presented to be understood by reviewer and editor. Who rejects? Certainly not the editor, because editor's job is to select competent peers, if peers have missed any important issue or not, whether peers are doing proper job, and if peer has any conflict of interest. If everything is good, then editor's job becomes simpler, and his job is to remove redundancy and make it more presentable. Now what can be done to improve your acceptance? Minimum must for a write-up, must read the instruction to author, to be familiar with the content style carefully. Write introduction not more than 500 to 700 words, just write 3 things. What is the current state of knowledge on the subject? You don't have to start from Hippocrates. What is the lacunae in the literature on that research question which you are posing, and what is your research hypothesis? What is your statement of purpose and method of the study? And this length should not be more than 500 to 700 words. Well, material method is the most common cause of rejection. But in nutshell, when you write a material method, make sure that if anybody who is able to read and conduct the study similar the way you have conducted, that's the best written material method. So this is the test to see whether material method you have written is right or wrong. Well, if you do an experimental study, then you have to give all details, experimental procedure control, why this procedure variable being measured, any material, any manufacturer name, well-known procedure, give reference, modified procedure, give in detail. For clinical study, all demographic data, period of time, where was it done, power study, design of the study, number of patients taken. If you have, what way you have included particular patient, what were its inclusion criteria or exclusion criteria, if randomization, how randomization, what evaluation, those tests which you have done to evaluate, say, result good or bad, are those are validated score, or you have devised your own score. Well, if you have devised your own score, then that's not valid unless you yourself do inter-observer or intra-observer studies. Appropriate reference for the test is to be done. What measurement you have taken, who undertook the measurement, the person who is evaluating the result is the same surgeon or maybe someone else, is he blinded or not, and if it is a case control study, how the control was chosen, and this all has to be written in material method. Well, follow-up evaluation, any specific method, accurate recording of data is done, approval of IRB or ethics committee, and informed consent. If you have done animal studies, approved of institutional animal welfare committee is taken or not. And finally, the statistical method. Result you must write not more than 500 words or to 750 words. It should be straightforward, clearly presented with an appropriate table and figures. Fact and figure should match with material method. 70 cases in material method, they become 52 in material method. That is not acceptable. Identify patients who are lost to follow-up, why they are lost to follow-up or have died. Now coming to discussion, you should just write meaning of your result in terms of original research question. You must point out any biological difference which you have observed, relate them to other studies published in the literature, and if in the end you feel that some more studies to be done, suggest them, and if you feel there is some limitation, write down that limitation. In the end of discussion, give a small conclusion, avoid repetition of data in result section, in this section, and preferential citing of the previous work should not be done. Well, you have searched the literature, you find 10 articles on the subject, you cite 2 only those which suits you. Rest which condemn your procedure, you don't cite. That is not acceptable, because it is very easy for peers to find out all those 10 articles. Now the last is abstract, because this is something which is most commonly read. Every one of you read the abstract, and if it is interesting, then you go to the article. So it is the most commonly read. You should write it after the entire manuscript. Should be structured or not structured, depend on journal, but you must divide into 4 parts. 2 lines, purpose of study; 3 lines, brief statement, what was done; 3 lines, what was found; and 2 lines, what was the concluded. That's how you split your abstract. Give a crisp title. References should be collected before starting the studies, and this is the most common mistake, that students are submitting the thesis, at the same time they are writing review of the literature. Review of the literature should be done when the protocol is being made. So you must search for the references before you have started the study, from the standard textbooks or index journal only. Well, references are written as a Harvard method or Vancouver style. Harvard methods, where it's the CORR style, where the author name and year is written in the manuscript, and references are summed up as alphabetically. While Vancouver method, which is adopted worldwide, where references cited as a text as a numeral in the manuscript, and they are cited as the first reference cited in the literature, in the article, will come as the first reference in the reference list. Well, give whatever table important, give that. Do not repeat information, and whenever you give a table, give the number of table, give the title of table. Figure and histogram should be chosen if you feel that they are going to improve the communication of your results, but do not plot unrelated trend on one graph. And this is what is the example one could see here, the same information. This is a well done graph, and this is a poorly done graph. So you have to be a little cautious in making a proper graph. Photographs are important to highlight something which you are not able to write in few words. You have to take paragraph, and others are not able to understand. So choose those for a photograph, number them, submit onto the site. Journal, they usually make composite photograph by themselves. Always try to highlight, put some arrow what you want to show in that particular photograph. Write proper legend what actually you are showing in that photograph. It is not, and those who review for the IGO, they know it, that just authors write figure showing pre-operative figure, and that's it. What you are trying to show in that figure, please write that. Because journal neither is a photo album nor testing the integrity of author. So just choose few selected figures. Polishing of article is very important to make it crisp, because whenever you start writing, you always write 9 to 10,000 words. So leave it in a drawer for 3 to 4 weeks time, and start reading it again. You yourself is going to cut down by 40%. Give it to your own colleague. He is going to act as a peer for you, and he is going to polish your article. Well, while writing, one must write complete sentence, correct and precise scientific terminology. Each paragraph must address one issue. It's not that 5 issues are being addressed in one paragraph and 5 paragraphs are taken to address one issue. No flowery prose. You should avoid word never heard of, or a colloquial speech or slang, an abbreviation except unit of measure. Plagiarism is something which I would like to warn, because nowadays it is very easy to catch the plagiarism. Using somebody's other's work, idea, images without citation is an offense. And representation of work of others as being your own work is an offense, and it is easily caught, and I reject almost 30 manuscripts every year on this account. Well, assured publication is one which has a clear research question: what is evaluated, how evaluated, what was observed, the observation significant or not, and conclusion answer to your research question. Well, every experience to the patient care should be translated to research. Do it for your problem, do it for others, because we can generate evidence for developed nations. Living biology is our strength. Well, what you must do to start conducting research, you just start documenting each and every patient on electronic database, and document each and every event of the patient on your database. I am sure 2 years time you just do it, thoughts will start coming in your mind yourself, without being stimulated, without being provoked to write something, and that's how evidence will flow automatically. Writing is like having a baby. The gestation period is long, the labor is painful, but in the end you have something to show for it. Well, objective of these efforts is to bring about change in the mindset. The research is nothing but a summation of a critical, well thought conclusions about the outcome of treatment we offer to the patient every day, and well thought of innovation we undertake every day. which we were doing since time immemorial. Other change now is that we want to do it as a faster pace and ensuring it is retrievable beyond human life. Well, because I believe in orthopedics, India can lead the world. Well, for publication, we have 6 issues of IGO. At the moment, we are printing just 600 pages. Without anything, without any effort, we can increase up to 1500 pages. So these 900 pages are open to all of you to submit more manuscript, act as an author, because these pages are lying vacant. No manuscript will ever be rejected for want of pages. Well, best reviewers are those who is thinking about a particular clinical problem, and we are the best reviewer for our own clinical problem. Join journal as a reviewer. Well, advantage of reviewing is that it improves your writing and you become a better author. We have to evolve, we have to achieve a global height. Join editorial board in various capacity. We have now many more capacities are coming up being advertised. So I request you all to join as author, reviewer, editor, editorial board member in any capacity. And that's how we can become a global force. Thank you very much indeed for patient listening.